All right, let's talk about a feeling that, let's be honest, every single one of us knows. It's that magnetic pull to do literally anything except the one thing you're supposed to be doing. Today, we're diving into how to win that battle, not with sheer willpower, but with some fascinating brain science. Okay, so picture this. You have a huge deadline looming, it's getting serious, and yet, out of nowhere, you're hit with this powerful, undeniable urge to learn everything there is to know about, say, the anglerfish. What is that? Why does our brain seem to sabotage us like this? Well, here's the first and most important thing to get straight. This is not about you being lazy. It is not a flaw in your character. What you're feeling is a very real, very predictable battle that's happening deep inside your brain. And that gets us to the heart of it. You see, to beat procrastination, you first have to understand who's fighting. So let's meet the two combatants who are duking it out for control of your attention. Think of it like this. There's a toddler and an adult living inside your head. The toddler is your limbic system. This part of your brain is ancient, it's powerful, and it operates purely on feeling. It wants what feels good right now, and it will do anything to avoid things that are boring, hard, or just plain unpleasant. Then you've got the adult in the room, your prefrontal cortex. This is the evolved, rational planner. It's the part that gets long-term goals and understands consequences. And this is pretty much exactly what your limbic system sounds like when you try to make it do that big, important task. It's basically throwing a temper tantrum. It couldn't care less about your future self. It just wants to escape that feeling of discomfort this very second. And that deep-sea fish documentary, well, that's the perfect, fun, instantly gratifying escape it's screaming for. So, that brings us to what procrastination really is. It's what happens when that inner toddler wins the argument. You know, it's not really a time management problem, it's an emotion management problem. You're not actually trying to avoid the work. You're trying to avoid the bad feelings you associate with the work. You're essentially choosing to fix your mood in the short term, even if it messes up your own goals down the road. Okay, so we get the battle now. The question is, how do we help the adult in our brain win more often? Well, the great news is that science gives us a fantastic toolkit. We're going to go through 3 science-backed strategies that are designed to tip the scales back in your favor. And here they are. First, the 2-minute rule. Second, the break-it-down strategy. And third, and this one might be the most surprising, the simple power of forgiving yourself. These aren't just feel-good tips. They're actual techniques that work with your brain's wiring, not against it. Let's kick things off with strategy number 1, the 2-minute rule. The genius of this rule is that it's basically a Jedi mind trick you play on your own limbic system. We all know the hardest part of any task is just getting started, right? This rule totally short-circuits that initial resistance. I mean, just think about it. The commitment is ridiculously small, just 120 seconds. Literally anyone can do almost anything for 2 minutes. The magic here isn't about finishing the whole task. Nope, it's about breaking that state of inertia. You know, an object in motion stays in motion. Well, it turns out your productivity works the exact same way. So here's what that looks like in the real world. The thought, I have to write a 10-page report is huge. It's scary. Your inner toddler wants to run for the hills. But if you reframe it to, I'm just going to open the document and write 1 sentence, well, that's so tiny and non-threatening that there's almost zero resistance. And what happens most of the time? That 1 sentence turns into 2, then maybe a whole paragraph. You're in. And that leads us perfectly into our second strategy, break it down. This one uses the same core principle as the 2-minute rule, but it's really designed for those massive, multi-step projects that just feel completely impossible. A task like renovate the kitchen is what you might call a project monster. To your brain, it's just this huge, vague, terrifying thing. Your limbic system sees it as a major threat and wants nothing to do with it. But look what happens when you break it down into tiny, specific mini-tasks. Measure the old cabinets, browse for paint colors, make 1 phone call. Suddenly, you're not fighting some giant monster anymore. You're just taking a few small, totally manageable steps. Okay, on to our final and maybe our most powerful strategy. Now, this one might feel a little backward at first, but the research on this is incredibly clear. You have to forgive your past self for procrastinating. Think about it. When you put something off, what's the next feeling? It's usually guilt, right? Stress. We beat ourselves up. ugh, I'm so lazy for not doing this yesterday. But that just creates this awful, vicious cycle. Those bad feelings about procrastinating get tangled up with the task itself, which, of course, makes you want to avoid it even more. When you consciously forgive yourself, you snap that cycle. You just say, okay, that happened. It lowers the emotional stakes and makes it so much easier to simply start again. You're shifting your focus from a past you can't change to one small thing you can do right now. So, we've taken apart the problem and we've built our new toolkit. Now it's time to put it all together. This is about starting your comeback, not tomorrow, but right now. So let's recap your new toolkit. It's just 3 simple commands to give yourself. First, the 2-minute rule. Your only job is to just start. Second, break it down. Your job is to make it smaller. And third, forgive yourself. Your secret weapon is to be kind, which breaks the guilt cycle. And this brings us to what I think is the most critical takeaway from all of this. It's time to change how you see yourself. You are not a procrastinator. That's a label, a fixed identity. Instead, you are a person who sometimes struggles with procrastination and who is now armed with the tools to make a different choice. You have everything you need to begin. So, I'll just leave you with this one question. Not what you're going to do tomorrow or next week. What is one tiny 2-minute, non-scary step you can take on something that matters as soon as this is over? Thanks for joining us.